Most people are waiting for faith to work for them, but faith doesn't work until you do. The reason some people keep praying without progress is because they never put their belief into motion. Let me tell you something powerful. Faith is not just something you hold in your heart. It's something you put in your hands, in your words, in your decisions, and in your actions. And in 2025, if you want to see transformation, you cannot just say you believe. You have to prove it by what you do. Faith without action is dead faith, because belief that never manifests into tangible steps is nothing more than wishful thinking disguised as spirituality. And this truth is one that often stings, because it calls out the very gap most people live in, the gap between what they say they believe and what they are willing to do about it. It is easy to talk about faith, to quote scriptures, to declare affirmations, or to tell the world how deeply you believe in the promises of God or in the vision you carry, but none of those things will move your life forward unless they are coupled with actions that demonstrate the authenticity of that belief. Imagine someone saying they believe they can climb a mountain, but they never take one step up the path. They stay at the bottom repeating, "I believe," until the day they die, and yet they never touch the summit. That is exactly what happens when faith is divorced from works, when the declaration is there, but the demonstration is missing. True faith is a force that demands expression. It is not passive. It is not content with being locked inside the heart. It must manifest outwardly through behavior, decisions, and relentless pursuit of what one claims to believe is possible. The very nature of faith is rooted in movement, because to have faith is to see something that is not yet visible, and to move toward it as though it were already real, and that movement requires action. If a farmer believes in the harvest, but never tills the ground, never sows the seed, never waters the soil, and never nurtures the crop, his faith in the harvest is nothing but an empty hope with no foundation in reality. In the same way, a person can say they believe in their business idea, but if they never take the risk to invest time, resources, and effort into it, then their belief is hollow. Faith without action is not only ineffective, it is self-deception, because the person convinces themselves that belief alone is enough, when in truth, belief without steps is the equivalent of burying potential in the ground and expecting it to multiply on its own. When you say you believe in something, but your life shows no evidence of pursuit, no evidence of sacrifice, no evidence of work, you prove by your inaction that your faith was never alive in the first place, because living faith breathes, it grows, it moves, it produces, it refuses to remain stagnant. There is also a deep psychological truth here, because belief, when genuine, always alters behavior. Think about it. If someone believes the stove is hot, they will not touch it. If they believe an opportunity is real, they will seize it. If they believe their dream is worth fighting for, they will rearrange their priorities to chase it. And that means belief is never meant to remain hidden inside. Belief is proven in behavior, and if behavior contradicts belief, then the belief is false or dead. Many people say they believe in abundance, yet they behave with a poverty mindset, holding on to every resource out of fear rather than sowing seeds that could produce more. Many people say they believe in love, but they refuse to forgive, refuse to give, refuse to extend grace, showing that their so-called faith in love is really just a statement, not a conviction. Belief shapes how you act, and if there is no shift in action, then there is no real faith operating, only empty words. When you examine the lives of people who accomplished great things, you will notice that their faith was never silent or idle. It was expressed in bold steps. They did not wait until everything made sense. They did not wait for the conditions to be perfect. They moved with courage despite uncertainty, because faith is not the absence of risk. It is the willingness to risk because you trust the outcome even when you cannot see it. A person of faith applies for the job even when the odds look impossible, starts the business even when the resources seem scarce, studies late into the night because they believe the investment in knowledge will pay off, speaks words of life even when circumstances seem bleak, because faith insists that action must match expectation. This is why faith without works is not merely incomplete, it is dead, because a living thing grows, evolves, expresses itself, and produces fruit, but a dead thing remains stagnant, lifeless, and barren. Faith demands obedience as well, because when you truly believe, you obey the instructions you are given, whether divine guidance or practical wisdom, and that obedience is itself an action. If you say you have faith in your future, but disobey the principles that lead to that future, then your words betray you. Obedience proves belief because it requires surrendering your will to the conviction of what you trust to be true. Taking action in faith does not mean you always feel certain. It means you choose to move even when certainty is absent, because the essence of faith is to act on the unseen and to treat it as though it were already done. The act of obedience is what transforms faith from theory into practice, from imagination into manifestation, from hope into testimony. Patience and persistence are also parts of the action that prove faith, because faith is not a one-time step. It is a continuous journey. Too many people quit too soon and then claim faith does not work, but the truth is their faith died because they stopped feeding it with action. A seed does not sprout overnight, and if you pull it out of the soil because you do not see growth immediately, then the failure is not in the seed, it is in your lack of persistence. Faith must be watered with daily choices, consistent efforts, repeated steps even when results seem invisible, and that persistence becomes the evidence that you truly believe the harvest is coming. Faith without action is not just inactive, it is impatient. And impatience always kills potential before it matures. Ultimately, when you grasp the reality that faith without works is dead, you realize that the true measure of what you believe is not in what you say, not in what you feel, and not even in what you think, but in what you do repeatedly in alignment with your belief. You may tell the world you believe in change, but if you do not change your habits, you prove otherwise. You may declare that you believe in success, but if you keep procrastinating, your inaction exposes the truth. Living faith breathes life into your steps, pushes you beyond comfort, demands action that aligns with conviction, and creates a visible trail of evidence that your belief is alive and active in the real world. Belief shapes your behavior because what you truly hold in your mind and heart inevitably flows into the way you act, the decisions you make, and the habits you create day after day. And this is a principle that cannot be escaped no matter how much someone tries to separate belief from lifestyle. The human brain is designed to operate in alignment with conviction. So if you believe something strongly enough, your subconscious mind begins to guide you toward actions that match that belief whether you are fully aware of it or not. If you believe you are capable, you will walk with confidence, you will take risks, you will lean into opportunities. But if deep down you believe you are unworthy, incapable, or destined to fail, you will hesitate, you will self-sabotage, and you will withdraw, even when doors of possibility swing wide open. This means that every outward behavior is nothing more than an inner belief dressed in visible form, because action always mirrors thought. And what you do consistently is simply a reflection of what you truly believe about yourself, about others, and about the world. Think about someone who believes in discipline and growth versus someone who believes in luck and chance. The one who believes in discipline will wake up early, create routines, invest time in learning, and pursue goals with steady effort because their behavior is fueled by the belief that consistent work produces results, while the one who believes in luck will wait for the right moment, hope for someone else to rescue them, and live passively because their behavior is fueled by the belief that success is a matter of fate, not effort. Two people can have the same opportunity, but will behave differently simply because their beliefs are different, and this difference in behavior is what creates completely opposite outcomes in their lives. It is never just about what is possible, it is always about what you believe is possible, because that belief will determine whether you take the actions that lead to manifestation, or whether you sit back and watch opportunities slip away. Belief shapes not only what you do, but also how you interpret what happens to you. And that interpretation influences your reactions, your resilience, and your persistence. If you believe challenges are punishments, you will shrink when they come. You will complain, you will feel like life is unfair, and your behavior will reflect weakness and avoidance. But if you believe challenges are lessons and opportunities for growth, you will rise when they come. You will push forward, and you will behave with courage because your inner conviction tells you that hardship is not the end, but a stepping stone to something greater. This is why two people can go through the same struggle, yet one becomes bitter and the other becomes stronger. The difference is not the struggle itself, but the belief that shaped their behavior in the midst of it. Even the way you treat other people is shaped by belief, because if you believe others are competitors, you will behave with jealousy, criticism, and constant comparison. But if you believe others are collaborators or allies, you will behave with generosity, encouragement, and respect. Beliefs about relationships influence behaviors like trust, forgiveness, communication, and loyalty, because no one can consistently act in a way that contradicts their inner convictions. Someone who believes love is fragile will behave with suspicion, withholding trust, and creating distance, while someone who believes love is powerful will behave with vulnerability, openness, and commitment. Behavior does not emerge in isolation. It is always tethered to the invisible strings of belief, pulling and guiding the way a person responds in every interaction and every relationship. Belief also shapes habits, and habits are nothing more than repeated behaviors that eventually form identity. A person who believes health matters will develop habits like exercising, eating well, and resting properly, while a person who believes health is not important will ignore these practices, and over time, those habits will reinforce the original belief. It becomes a cycle. Belief informs behavior. Behavior reinforces belief, and the cycle continues until it either lifts someone to greatness or drags them into destruction. If you want to change your behavior, you cannot only focus on the actions themselves. You must go deeper and examine the root belief that fuels them, because behavior is only the fruit, while belief is the seed. Consider also how belief shapes behavior in terms of risk and opportunity. If you believe failure is fatal, you will avoid trying new things, you will play it safe, and your behavior will be cautious to the point of stagnation. But if you believe failure is feedback, you will step into opportunities boldly, knowing that even if you fall short, you are learning, growing, and positioning yourself for future success. The behavior of one who fears failure is hesitation, procrastination, and avoidance, while the behavior of one who embraces failure as part of the process is experimentation, persistence, and eventual breakthrough. The underlying beliefs are invisible, but they are the driving engine behind visible behavior, and that is why some people remain stuck while others keep advancing. Belief even shapes your financial behavior, because if you believe money is scarce, you will hoard, you will spend fearfully, and you will live with a scarcity mindset that keeps you trapped in limitation. But if you believe money is abundant and can be created through value and service, you will behave with confidence in investments, generosity in giving, and creativity in building wealth. People who believe they can never rise beyond their financial background will behave in ways that keep them in that very position, while those who believe they can transform their financial future will behave differently by seeking knowledge, taking opportunities, and building systems that change their circumstances. Ultimately, belief is the architect of behavior, and behavior is the builder of destiny. Every choice, every habit, every step you take is silently shaped by the convictions you hold most deeply, whether those convictions are empowering or limiting. You may not always be able to control circumstances, but you always control what you believe about those circumstances, and that belief will dictate how you respond, how you persist, and how you rise. To transform your life, you must first transform your beliefs, because once belief shifts, behavior naturally follows. And when behavior aligns with higher conviction, destiny itself begins to change. Words are seeds, but actions are the soil, because every declaration, every affirmation, every statement of belief carries potential within it. Yet potential on its own does not guarantee growth unless it is planted in an environment that allows it to take root and flourish, and that environment is created through consistent, aligned, and intentional action. When you speak words of faith, encouragement, or vision, you are sowing seeds into the atmosphere. But if you never follow those words with behavior that nurtures and supports them, those seeds fall on barren ground and remain lifeless, never bringing forth the harvest they were capable of producing. Words carry power, but their power is incomplete when separated from the soil of action, because soil is what gives a seed its foundation, its nourishment, and its chance to break through into reality. People who rely only on words without action are like farmers scattering seeds on concrete. They may speak life and abundance, but without the soil of consistent effort, those words will never become tangible results. Consider the way people use affirmations as an example. Someone can wake up every morning and say, "I am wealthy, I am successful, I am healthy," and those words are indeed seeds with potential. But if after declaring those things, they waste their time, avoid responsibility, and indulge in unhealthy habits, their actions create a soil too toxic for those seeds to grow. On the other hand, another person may speak the same affirmations, but then follow them with disciplined work, wise decisions, and intentional habits. And that action-filled soil allows the seed of their words to take root and grow into visible results. It is not enough to declare what you desire. You must cultivate the soil of action that supports those declarations, because words without works remain dreams, but words planted in action become destiny. The soil of action is what tests whether the seed of your words is authentic or empty. Many people say they believe in success, but their actions show they are more committed to excuses than execution. Many declare they want change, but their actions reveal they are comfortable in the familiarity of stagnation. Soil exposes the truth of the seed, because a seed will only grow if the soil welcomes it, feeds it, and nurtures it. Actions are the evidence of sincerity, the proof that your words are not hollow but rooted in conviction. When your actions align with your declarations, you create an environment where growth is inevitable. But when your actions contradict your words, you create an environment where seeds suffocate and die before they ever sprout. This principle applies to every area of life, from relationships to finances to health. In relationships, words are seeds when you say, "I love you, I value you, I am committed to you." But those words cannot survive without the soil of actions that reflect kindness, sacrifice, loyalty, and consistency. In finances, words are seeds when you say, "I am going to build wealth, I will create abundance." But those words will not multiply without the soil of disciplined budgeting, saving, investing, and creating value in the marketplace. In health, words are seeds when you say, "I am strong, I am healthy," but without the soil of exercise, nutrition, and rest, those seeds will never grow into vitality. Words start the process, but actions sustain it, and without actions, words are wasted breath. Actions are the soil, because soil is what transforms invisible potential into visible manifestation. A seed is unseen power contained in a small package, but the soil activates that power, breaks it open, and forces it to release what is hidden within. Similarly, words are unseen promises, declarations of potential, but actions are the soil that activates them, breaks open their possibility, and releases their power into the real world. Without soil, the seed stays locked in dormancy. Without action, words stay locked in imagination. Too many people are seed-rich but soil-poor. They speak life but live passively. They declare vision but refuse to sacrifice. They talk about greatness, but never take the uncomfortable steps required to produce it. Even spiritually, this principle holds true, because faith itself is described as needing works to be alive. Words of faith are powerful, but faith without works is dead, which means the soil of action is what gives life to the seed of faith-filled words. You cannot just pray for change while continuing to act in contradiction to your prayer. You cannot declare prosperity while sowing laziness. You cannot speak healing while indulging in self-destructive habits. The soil of your daily decisions either validates or invalidates the seeds of your words, and the harvest you see in your life is always the product of both, not one without the other. The fascinating thing about seeds and soil is that one cannot exist effectively without the other. Seeds without soil are lifeless, but soil without seeds is barren. Words without actions are powerless, but actions without direction are meaningless. You need both the clarity and intention of your words and the execution and consistency of your actions to produce a harvest that matches your potential. A person who only acts without speaking vision may work hard but remain unfocused, producing little of true value, while a person who only speaks without acting lives in delusion, producing nothing at all. But when words and actions come together, when you sow the right seeds into the right soil, you create a powerful synergy that multiplies growth and produces transformation beyond imagination. Every great achievement in history followed this pattern. Leaders, inventors, entrepreneurs, and visionaries all began with a seed of words, whether spoken out loud or declared in their hearts. But they never stopped there. They planted those seeds in the soil of relentless action, and over time, those seeds grew into movements, inventions, businesses, and revolutions. Words cast the vision, actions built the foundation, and together they created the legacy. Your life operates by the same principle. The seeds you sow with your words and the soil you create with your actions determine the harvest you will reap tomorrow. And if your harvest is not what you want it to be, the question is not whether you are speaking enough seeds, but whether you are cultivating enough soil through consistent, aligned, and purposeful action. Faith requires courage, not comfort, because the very essence of faith is stepping into the unseen, the uncertain, and the unpredictable. And nothing about that journey is designed to keep you comfortable, safe, or at ease. Comfort is rooted in the familiar, in staying within the boundaries of what you already know, what you can already control, and what feels secure. But faith calls you beyond those boundaries into spaces that demand trust, boldness, and the willingness to risk failure, rejection, or pain in pursuit of something greater. If faith were comfortable, everyone would operate in it. But because faith requires courage, few are willing to truly walk by it. Courage is the ability to move forward despite fear, to take the leap even when doubt is screaming in your ear, to act boldly when logic says you should sit still, and that is exactly what faith demands. You cannot claim to have faith while clinging to the comfort of certainty, because certainty does not require belief. It only requires observation. But faith demands stepping into what you cannot yet see and moving as if it were already real. Every major shift in life begins with a moment of courage, not comfort, because growth never takes place in the safety zone. A student who believes in their future must have the courage to invest years of study, endure sleepless nights, and push through failures, because comfort would tell them to relax, take it easy, and avoid the hard work. An entrepreneur who believes in their vision must have the courage to risk resources, face criticism, and push through uncertainty, because comfort would tell them to stay in a secure job, avoid risk, and never challenge the status quo. A person who believes in healing or transformation must have the courage to forgive, to let go of the past, and to face the pain of vulnerability, because comfort would tell them to hold on to bitterness, hide behind walls, and never expose their wounds. In every case, faith shows up when courage overrides comfort, because courage is the only soil where faith can grow and bear fruit. The reason faith demands courage is because it always involves a step before the evidence, a movement before the manifestation, and that step is rarely easy. Imagine someone standing at the edge of a cliff with a bridge that is invisible until they take the first step. Comfort will never allow them to move, but courage, fueled by faith, pushes them forward, and only then does the bridge appear beneath their feet. That is how faith works. It requires movement before confirmation, obedience before outcome, sacrifice before reward, and those requirements are uncomfortable because they expose you to fear and uncertainty. Yet it is in that discomfort that true growth happens, because courage exercised in faith transforms you into a stronger, bolder, and more resilient version of yourself. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom, whispering that you should wait until conditions are perfect, until resources are plenty, until people support you. But faith does not wait for perfect conditions. It moves in imperfect situations with the courage to believe that the outcome will align with the unseen vision. Comfort convinces you to stay where you are, but faith requires courage to walk away from what is familiar, whether that means leaving behind toxic relationships, outdated mindsets, or environments that no longer support your growth. Faith is not proven when everything is easy, when everything makes sense, when everything is under control. Faith is proven when you dare to take courageous steps into uncertainty, trusting that your belief is stronger than your fear. Even historically, every great story of faith has been a story of courage, not comfort. People who changed the world, built movements, or walked into their destinies did not do so from a place of ease. They did so from a place of boldness. They faced ridicule, opposition, and setbacks, but their faith gave them the courage to keep going when comfort would have told them to quit. Comfort produces mediocrity, but courage fueled by faith produces legacy. To choose comfort over courage is to choose stagnation over transformation, but to choose courage is to align your actions with your belief, proving that your faith is alive and active. Courage is also required because faith will always stretch you beyond what you think you can handle. Faith tells you to forgive when you want revenge, to give when you want to hold back, to speak when you want to stay silent, to act when you want to hide. Each of those moments demands courage because they pull you out of your natural instinct for self-preservation and into a higher calling that often feels risky. It takes courage to trust in provision when resources seem scarce, courage to trust in healing when pain is present, courage to keep moving forward when everything in you wants to turn back. Comfort tells you to quit, to play small, to accept less. But faith requires the courage to keep believing, to keep striving, and to keep stepping even when the path is unclear. Faith and comfort are incompatible because faith thrives in uncertainty, while comfort thrives in predictability. If you want to live by faith, you must be willing to be stretched, challenged, and even shaken out of your comfort zone, because it is in those moments that your courage is tested and your belief is refined. Faith will call you to build when there are no resources, to dream when others call you foolish, to stand firm when others walk away, and none of those moments will feel comfortable. But each of them will build the muscle of courage required to manifest what you believe. Faith requires courage, because only courage can carry you through the valleys of fear and doubt. Only courage can push you past the temptation to quit. Only courage can prove that your belief is more powerful than your comfort zone. The uncomfortable truth is that the life you desire, the purpose you are called to fulfill, the destiny you are meant to walk in, all exist on the other side of comfort, guarded by the requirement of courage. Faith is the key that opens the door, but courage is the hand that turns the key, and without it, the door remains shut while you stand outside, wishing and waiting. Courage is the companion of faith, and without courage, faith remains theory, never tested, never proven, never manifested. When you understand that faith requires courage and not comfort, you begin to embrace the discomfort of growth, the stretching of challenges, and the risk of stepping into the unknown, because you recognize that every step of courage and faith takes you closer to the life you were meant to live. Obedience is proof of belief, because true conviction is never hidden in words alone. It is demonstrated in actions that align with what you claim to trust. And without obedience, belief remains theoretical, abstract, and untested. To say you believe is easy, to declare with confidence that you hold certain truths, or that you trust in a certain path, requires little effort. But the evidence of that declaration is found in whether you are willing to submit your behavior to that belief, even when it is inconvenient, uncomfortable, or costly. A person can say they believe in discipline, but if they continually choose procrastination, their actions reveal that their belief was never genuine. Someone can claim they believe in love, but if they consistently act in selfishness, withholding grace and kindness, then their so-called belief is exposed as hollow. Obedience, therefore, is the bridge between what you say and what you truly believe, because obedience requires action, sacrifice, and consistency, and only genuine belief can sustain those things over time. Obedience is proof of belief because it moves belief out of the mind and into the realm of reality, showing that conviction is not just a concept, but a guiding principle shaping daily choices. Imagine a patient who says they believe their doctor's advice, but refuses to take the prescribed medicine or follow the recommended treatment. Their disobedience reveals that despite what they say, they do not truly believe in the doctor's authority or wisdom. In the same way, when people say they believe in the principles of success, but disobey the disciplines that success requires, such as consistency, focus, or perseverance, they show that their belief is shallow. Genuine belief produces alignment between conviction and conduct, and the way you obey what you claim to believe is what proves its authenticity. The essence of obedience is surrender, because obedience requires you to submit your will, your preferences, and even your comfort to the authority of your belief. If you believe a path leads to life, you obey by walking it, even when it feels long or difficult. If you believe a principle produces fruit, you obey by practicing it, even when it requires discipline and sacrifice. Obedience is never convenient, because belief is rarely tested in easy circumstances. It is tested when you are tempted to compromise, when you are tempted to quit, when you are tempted to take shortcuts, and your obedience in those moments reveals whether your belief is truly anchored or merely spoken. Anyone can believe when it costs nothing, but obedience proves belief when the cost is high. Obedience is proof of belief because belief always influences behavior, and obedience is the highest form of behavioral alignment. A person who believes in the law of gravity does not jump off tall buildings expecting to float safely, because their behavior obeys their belief in that law. A person who believes fire burns does not place their hand in the flame for fun, because their behavior obeys their belief in that reality. If you truly believe in the consequences or rewards tied to a principle, your actions will reflect it through obedience, not hesitation. When actions contradict declarations, it is not that obedience is weak, it is that belief is not truly present. Belief that does not produce obedience is not belief at all, it is merely opinion. This principle applies across every sphere of life, from personal growth to relationships to leadership. In personal growth, you can say you believe in the value of knowledge, but your obedience to studying, practicing, and applying that knowledge proves whether that belief is genuine. In relationships, you can say you believe in commitment, but your obedience to remain loyal, to forgive, and to prioritize the relationship shows whether your belief in commitment is authentic. In leadership, you can say you believe in serving others, but your obedience to actually serving, leading with integrity, and sacrificing for those you lead reveals whether that belief is lived or simply spoken. In every case, obedience is the test that separates true believers from mere talkers, and it is obedience that creates results that words alone cannot produce. Obedience is proof of belief because it requires consistency, and consistency is only possible when belief runs deep. Anyone can obey for a short time out of fear, pressure, or external motivation, but sustained obedience requires internal conviction. You will not wake up early every morning to work toward your vision unless you truly believe in the value of that vision. You will not resist distractions and temptations unless you truly believe the discipline is worth more than the momentary pleasure. Sustained obedience flows from strong belief, and weak belief always produces inconsistent obedience. The strength of your actions reveals the strength of your conviction, and over time, it becomes impossible to hide what you truly believe because your obedience, or lack thereof, writes the story of your life. Obedience also demonstrates trust, because to obey is to trust that the path you are following will lead to the outcome you desire, even when the process does not make immediate sense. Trust requires humility, because it means admitting you do not have all the answers, but choosing to align yourself with what you believe is true anyway. For example, a person training under a mentor shows belief in the mentor's wisdom, not by saying, "I trust you," but by obeying the instructions, even when those instructions challenge their current habits. A person who says they believe in health shows their trust not through words, but through obedience to routines that are sometimes tiring or inconvenient. Trust always manifests as obedience, because if you truly trust, you will act in alignment with that trust. Obedience is proof of belief because results flow from alignment, not from intention alone. Words and declarations can set direction, but it is obedience to consistent actions that determines the harvest. The student who obeys the principle of study eventually sees success in exams. The athlete who obeys the principle of training eventually reaps victory in competition. The entrepreneur who obeys the principle of value creation eventually reaps profit and growth. Outcomes are tied to obedience, and obedience is tied to belief, which means the results you see in your life are not random. They are the fruit of what you truly believe, as proven by what you consistently obey. Patience and persistence fuel results because no great achievement, no lasting transformation, and no meaningful success is born overnight. And the journey from vision to manifestation requires the endurance to wait, the discipline to stay consistent, and the determination to keep moving even when progress feels slow or invisible. Patience is the capacity to endure delays, challenges, or obstacles without losing faith in the outcome, and persistence is the unwavering commitment to keep going despite setbacks, difficulties, or discouragement, and together they form the engine that turns belief and effort into tangible results. Many people begin with enthusiasm, fueled by excitement and passion, but when time stretches longer than expected, when obstacles arise, or when results don't appear immediately, they give up, not realizing that they abandoned the process just before the breakthrough was about to arrive. Results are never the product of quick bursts of energy alone. They are born out of patience that waits without wavering and persistence that refuses to quit. And that is why the combination of the two is so essential to creating anything of true value. Patience is what keeps you steady when progress is hidden, because the nature of growth is that it often begins beneath the surface, invisible to the eye. A seed planted in the soil does not sprout overnight, and even when days or weeks pass without visible change, the process is still happening in the unseen. Roots are forming, foundations are strengthening, and preparation is taking place for eventual breakthrough. In the same way, the efforts you make each day may not always show immediate results, but patience allows you to keep believing, keep working, and keep trusting that the unseen process will eventually manifest into something visible. Without patience, you uproot the seed too soon, you abandon the project prematurely, or you walk away from the vision before it has time to develop. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active endurance, the choice to keep investing in the process even when the evidence of success has not yet shown itself. Persistence is what ensures that effort continues in the face of resistance, because resistance is inevitable whenever you pursue something worthwhile. Every meaningful goal will meet obstacles, every vision will face opposition, and every dream will encounter moments of doubt. And it is persistence that pushes you through those moments. Persistence is the voice that says, "Try again," after failure. Take another step when exhaustion sets in, and don't quit now when discouragement whispers. It is persistence that keeps you studying after you fail an exam. Persistence that drives you back to training after a loss. Persistence that makes you revise your strategy after a setback in business. Persistence that keeps you going when others walk away. Without persistence, even the best intentions collapse under pressure, but with persistence, even the smallest effort, repeated consistently, compounds into extraordinary results over time. Together, patience and persistence form a powerful partnership, because patience without persistence leads to passivity, while persistence without patience leads to burnout. If you are patient but never persistent, you wait endlessly, but never take enough action to move forward. If you are persistent but never patient, you exhaust yourself by demanding instant results and grow frustrated when they do not appear quickly enough. But when patience steadies your heart and persistence drives your hands, you create a balance that allows steady, consistent, and sustainable progress. You do not quit when results are delayed, and you do not stop when obstacles arise, but you remain both enduring and active, steadily advancing toward the outcome you desire. The greatest achievements in history testify to this principle. Inventors who transformed the world did not succeed on their first attempt. They persisted through countless failures, while patiently believing in the vision they carried. Athletes who reached the top of their field did not rise overnight. They persisted through years of training, while patiently waiting for their moment of recognition. Entrepreneurs who built lasting businesses did not achieve success instantly. They persisted through setbacks, losses, and doubts, while patiently nurturing their vision until it matured. Patience kept their faith alive, and persistence kept their efforts active, and together those qualities fueled the results that changed their lives, and often the lives of millions. Patience and persistence are also essential in personal growth, because transformation is rarely immediate. Breaking habits, developing new skills, or reshaping your mindset is a long-term process that demands endurance. When you try to change, the old patterns resist, and progress often feels slow. But patience reminds you that growth takes time, and persistence keeps you practicing daily until the new patterns take root. In relationships, patience allows you to endure the imperfections of others without giving up, and persistence drives you to keep investing in love, trust, and communication, even when it is difficult. In health, patience allows you to trust the slow process of healing or fitness, and persistence ensures you keep showing up to exercise, to eat well, and to rest consistently. In every area of life, results are born not from sudden bursts of effort, but from the long, steady combination of patience and persistence. It is also important to recognize that patience and persistence are not just external practices, but internal attitudes. Patience comes from the belief that time is working for you, not against you, that delay does not mean denial, and that unseen processes are preparing the way for visible outcomes. Persistence comes from the conviction that failure is not final, that setbacks are temporary, and that effort repeated over time inevitably produces fruit. These internal attitudes fuel external behaviors, and the results you see are the natural byproduct of a mind and heart that refuse to quit, that refuse to rush, and that refuse to give in to discouragement. Most people underestimate how much can be accomplished with patience and persistence, because they overestimate what can be done in a short time and underestimate what can be achieved over years of consistent effort. They expect instant gratification, and when it doesn't come, they label the process a failure, not realizing that success was just beyond the point where they gave up. But those who embrace patience and persistence discover that results, though delayed, are inevitable when effort aligns with time. They learn that small actions, compounded daily, produce massive outcomes, and that faithfulness to the process, even when slow, is what eventually leads to breakthroughs. Patience and persistence fuel results because they create resilience, and resilience is the capacity to keep moving forward no matter what stands in the way. Life will test you with delays, distractions, and disappointments, and without patience, you will grow restless and quit, and without persistence, you will grow weary and stop. But with patience, you endure the waiting without losing hope, and with persistence, you endure the struggle without losing momentum, and those who endure both waiting and working are the ones who eventually taste the fullness of their results. Faith works best when aligned with purpose because faith without direction is like energy without focus. It may be powerful, but without a clear aim, it disperses and accomplishes little. Whereas when faith is anchored in purpose, it gains clarity, precision, and momentum. Faith by itself is the belief in something unseen, the confidence in what has not yet manifested. But when that belief is tied to a larger purpose, an intention that gives meaning to your actions, it becomes a force that not only sustains you through difficulties, but also channels your efforts toward the fulfillment of something greater. Many people have faith, but without purpose, their faith drifts aimlessly, producing bursts of energy without long-term results. Yet those who align faith with purpose direct their belief like a laser, focusing their vision and energy on a defined outcome, which multiplies the impact of their persistence and actions. Purpose provides the why behind faith, and faith provides the fuel to pursue that why with boldness, even when the path seems uncertain. When you understand your purpose, you have a reason to believe, a reason to endure, a reason to sacrifice, and faith becomes more than wishful thinking. It becomes conviction tied to a meaningful goal. For example, if someone believes in their ability to succeed but has no sense of purpose, their faith may push them in many directions, chasing opportunities that lack fulfillment. But when their faith is tied to a purpose, such as serving others, creating something impactful, or fulfilling a calling, every step they take has direction. Every obstacle they face becomes a test of commitment, and every victory adds meaning to their journey. Faith without purpose can lead to frustration, but faith with purpose produces fulfillment because it transforms belief into a mission. Faith aligned with purpose also creates resilience, because purpose provides the anchor that keeps faith steady during storms. Life will always bring delays, setbacks, and challenges, and without a clear sense of why you are enduring them, it becomes easy to give up. But when your faith is connected to something bigger than yourself, something meaningful that you know you were created to pursue, you develop the strength to endure difficulties without losing hope. Purpose answers the question of why should I keep going, and faith answers the question of how can I keep going when I don't see results yet. Together, they form a shield against discouragement, empowering you to persevere through what would otherwise break you. It is not enough to believe vaguely in success. You must believe specifically in the success of your purpose, and that belief becomes the fire that sustains you. When faith and purpose align, clarity of decision-making increases because you are no longer swayed by every opportunity or distraction. Many people get stuck because they have faith but lack focus, so they scatter their energy in too many directions. But when you know your purpose, faith sharpens your vision, making it easier to distinguish between what aligns with your mission and what pulls you away. You no longer waste time investing in things that don't serve your higher calling, and your faith is no longer stretched thin across pursuits that don't matter. Instead, you concentrate your belief and energy on what aligns with your purpose, and that focus accelerates progress. Faith without purpose is like wind blowing in every direction, but faith with purpose is like wind filling the sails of a ship headed toward a destination. Purpose gives faith a generational impact, because when you believe in something tied to a higher mission, your faith outlives your immediate circumstances and contributes to a legacy. Faith that is self-centered often dies when challenges come, but faith that is rooted in purpose continues to grow, because it is not just about you. It is about the lives you touch, the changes you create, and the impact you leave behind. For instance, an entrepreneur driven only by money may give up when profits decline, but one driven by the purpose of creating value and solving problems will persist because their faith is tied to something bigger than financial outcomes. Purpose multiplies faith's endurance, and faith magnifies purpose's reach, creating a synergy that produces lasting results beyond what either could achieve alone. Faith aligned with purpose also shapes character, because the pursuit of purpose requires growth, and faith provides the strength to embrace that growth process. Purpose often demands stepping into unfamiliar territory, stretching beyond comfort zones, and facing fears head-on. And it is faith that gives you the courage to take those steps. As you walk in faith toward your purpose, you develop discipline, humility, resilience, and vision, because every challenge tests your commitment and refines your character. Without faith, purpose feels overwhelming, and without purpose, faith feels shallow. But when they meet, they forge a stronger, more grounded version of yourself, who is not only achieving goals but also becoming the kind of person capable of sustaining them. Faith works best when aligned with purpose, because purpose gives faith its aim, and faith gives purpose its power, and together they create momentum that nothing can stop. It is one thing to believe you can do something, but it is another thing entirely to believe you can do it for a reason that matters deeply to you and to others. That combination transforms ordinary belief into unstoppable drive, because you are no longer just chasing outcomes. You are pursuing destiny. Faith provides the inner assurance that what you are striving for will happen, and purpose provides the blueprint for what that happening should look like, ensuring that your belief does not lead you astray, but guides you directly to meaningful impact. Ultimately, faith without purpose can leave you restless, chasing results that feel empty once achieved, while purpose without faith can leave you paralyzed, overwhelmed by the size of your vision without the courage to pursue it. But when faith and purpose unite, you live with both conviction and clarity, knowing not only that what you desire is possible, but also why it matters. This union fuels action, sustains perseverance, and multiplies results, because every step is infused with both belief and meaning. It is this alignment that turns dreams into missions, effort into progress, and vision into legacy, because faith alone can move mountains. But faith with purpose ensures those mountains are moved in the direction of destiny.